Are we just overwhelming? Overwhelming everybody by having so many people join in?
There were 23 million people joined to see you wearing a mask.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, it seems that it's working. So we are live now.
Try it again.
Yeah, try again. We should be live. I got a notification that the sound is working perfectly.
All right,
All
Rachel.
right, let's take a run at it.
Can they tape this? No, it's not on.
Well, he just said that they put it up. So she's saying no, it's not. She's
not.
Everyone's texting and saying the link is gone.
They're saying the link is gone now. So what does that mean?
1 second. Let me check what happened.
Refresh it.
Everybody's not mad.
Oh, well.
Same.
Bobby, just punt for the
Click on it.
Yeah. I think we should punt,
This is the link. Let me.
punt and reconvene.
Well,
So this is what it shows right now.
Sorry.
my phone.
That's Lindsay. Hold on, let me see. Hey, Lindsay.
Hi, you guys are live.
We are because it's.
Yeah, everything felt good on our end.
Are you sure? Because we're not getting anything.
It's not even popping.
It's not even popping up now.
The link is gone.
The link is gone. It says it's private. Here, can you see me? So,
Video is private.
okay.
I just texted you that we had a relaunch.
All right, but how are all the people going to see?
It's gone.
Everybody's gone. All the viewers are gone. So how? You just reposted it online?
Like on Joe's.
So cameo.com/Joe, if people go to that route, it's going to say, please go to this other link.
Are they going to do all that?
It's up to Joe.
Okay,
Leave it up to
Up to John and Mark on the last one here. We just plug in.
Refresh it.
I just did a second ago.
New technology. And when any one of those kids or anybody has
No, if that's on YouTube,
printed
it's
the other
still-
day, lowers the quality.
It still says null.
It's not.
Playing with their.
I know.
Nope. It says video is private.
It won't let you go on. I wonder if there's a way to take this. It'd be so much better.
I'm not saying it.
If I could post it and still get donations.
Shot. Oh, this is a drag.
Mark, is
Yeah.
there a way, I'm the least technically adept. Is there a way to tape this? So we do it now, then they repost it later, but you put all the information in. So then
Yeah.
they just replay the tape.
That's how it was going to happen anyway. They were going to post it on YouTube tomorrow and run it for the next couple of weeks. People could watch the video, click donations, do all that.
Then
So
then
we
maybe
must
we should do that, assuming we're up and running enough for them to tape it.
The top of mine says recording right now. That's what it says on the top of my screen.
So so Lindsay, you're recording this. So what we could do, people can't see this tonight, which I imagine they may have left already, but you're recording this whole thing, correct? So you're going to put this on YouTube and on Cameo. So for the next 2 weeks, people would just go on there and watch this and donate, correct? Okay.
You should do that.
So, yeah. Why are we on a delay? Maybe the delay is messing. Live streams are delayed. Okay. 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 So they're saying we are live. Can you confirm that, please?
Yeah. Yeah, Mom.
Confirm that it's live. Yeah, but are you in a different? Is it working?
This is fine.
Okay. So, all right, we're live now. So I think we're good. All right. All right. Thanks, Lindsay. Okay. Well, I think we're back. So I think this is working. So are we confirmed? We're good to go? All right, let's start this.
Take 3.
All right. Welcome everyone to our Cameo stream. I'm Mark Stein here in Chicago, and I'm thrilled to be joined by the legendary Bob Costas and the best manager in baseball, Joe Maddon. Tonight's event is raising funds for the Respect 90 Foundation, which Joe and Jay Maddon started in 2015. Let me tell you a bit about the foundation. Respect 90 enriches the lives of children and families in all the places the couple calls home. Long Beach, California, Tampa, Florida, and Joe's hometown of Hazleton, Pennsylvania. Respect 90 recently increased its efforts to support families during these uncertain times, making donations totaling $120,000 to 3 outstanding charities: the Hazleton Integration Project's Food Distribution Network, Metropolitan Ministries of Tampa, and the Women's Shelter of Long Beach. Respect 90 is an incredible foundation and helps so many in need, and I am truly honored to be involved. And so we are glad that everyone out there is taking part in this event. So let me tell you how this is going to work. You'll notice that there's a donation link under the screen. If you click on it or go to respect90.org, you will be able to make a donation directly to Respect 90. And not that you need an incentive, but everyone that donates will be eligible to win one of the many signed Joe Maddon baseballs that we will be shipping out, as well as being eligible to win a free Cameo video from Joe. And additionally, if you look below the donation link, you'll see that there's another link to purchase Joe's latest slogan t-shirt, Respect 6 Feet, which Joe is wearing tonight, and he looks real good. All proceeds from the sales of that shirt will go to fund COVID relief. As well, there's a mask that Joe's wearing with the same logo, and that's going to be on the site as well. All proceeds from all donations and merch sales will go to fund COVID relief. So we are ready to go. So I'd like to thank everyone at cameo.com for hosting this live event tonight. They've been fantastic to work with. So make sure to go to cameo.com and purchase your own Cameo video. And also, they are donating all proceeds from Joe's Cameo videos to Respect 90, which is amazing. So again, thank you, Cameo. I also want to thank Bob Costas for hosting this event tonight. How fortunate we are to get the best in the business to join us on this project. It was incredible having Bob as the soundtrack to The Last Dance for the past 5 weeks. And now we get to spend time with him, which is just awesome. And now I'm just thrilled to say, over to you, Bob Costas.
Well, let's hope that we're up and running and set to go. Many of the people joining us have just watched the ESPN replay of Game 7 from 2016. And Joe has been, pardon me, sitting at home watching it himself. And some of the players who were interviewed during this ESPN broadcast, Joe, said that even though they knew the outcome, even though it's going on 4 years ago, they still felt butterflies and anxiety watching it once more. Were you the same?
Yes. Before I get to that answer, I just want to say specifically to you, Bob, thank you for doing this tonight.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Bob and I get a chance to visit during the course of the baseball season in the manager's office, talking about a myriad of different things, and nobody knows this game better than Bob does. And thank you for doing this. And Cameo for hosting this tonight permits us in another way to raise funds for our foundation. Right now, it's very difficult to do that. So the creative way, be it t-shirts and masks, and Mark, thanks for all your help also to get this done. Anxiety. Anxiety lives in the future, always. However, under these circumstances, even though you know the outcome, it does. And again, we were talking earlier, the worst part is ground ball to KB, which should be the best part, because every time I just watched it again, he slipped. It looks like the ball's going to go over Rizzo's head, and it does not. You can go back to Davis's home run, which was very influential in that game. Ball off David Ross's mask, and I guess I'm talking about the negative stuff. But there were so many positive things that occurred. Kyle Hendricks, outstanding. Johnny Lester, I don't think was given enough credit for his performance. Aroldis Chapman hanging tight after giving up those couple points. So many things, but the high anxiety for me was ground ball to KB.
Yeah, because it had rained earlier. Mm-hmm. The ground was a little bit wet. And in fact, Chris did slip and his throw was a little bit high, but not so high that Rizzo didn't make easy work of it. It's kind of fitting that those two, there are other key players, but those two were kind of the young core of that team, along with Javi Baez.
Yeah, Brizzo got it done at the end. And we were, I guess, we're the youngest team to win, right? Something to that effect. You look at the whole group. I mean, Wilson started behind the plate. Riz was a baby at that time too. Javi at second, Addison at short, and then KB at third. Schwarb's DHing. Zobrist was long in it too. We got Dexter,
Hayward,
and Jason and Wright. So if you look at the average age of that group, it was incredibly young, but there was such a tightly knit group, fun to work with, man. Absolutely a blast to work with. Played it hard, played it right. It was a perfect setup of youth, and then you got the experience, whether it was David Ross, John Lackey, John Lester, Miguel Montero. There was a nice blend in there, which was a great job, I thought, by Theo and Jed putting the whole thing together. To me, that's the optimal way of doing it. You want your young stars, but you definitely want them being raised by the right guys.
This was epic, not just with a capital E, but a capital P-I-N-C, for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, the Cubs had waited since 1908. The Indians are still waiting since 1948. And in recent history, they've had a number of close calls, so close and yet so far situations. So the backstory made this even bigger than it otherwise would have been. But we were talking earlier before we came on the air here, that if this had been two other franchises without as rich a history, but this was Game 7 of the World Series and it played out the same way, it's still an incredible baseball game.
Absolutely. Again, we alluded to this earlier. We made some mistakes uncharacteristically, but it's a seventh game. A lot of guys are fatigued at this point. 162 plus the playoffs, plus your spring training. And there's a ton of emotion being expended out there on a night like that. So yeah, you break it down. It had some moments that were not so cool, but there was so much great baseball that was played that night by two really wonderful teams. And eventually, we had one more point when the last out was made. But I think it's going to stand the test of time as you, over the course of the years, go back and try to reevaluate the best Game 7s ever played. I have to believe ours has to be near the top.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Now, before you got to Chicago, you'd been the American League Manager of the Year a couple of times. You took an under-resourced Tampa team to the playoffs 4 times, to the World Series in 2008. You come to Chicago, you win 97, 103 in the championship year, 95 and 92 in the first 4 years of your 5 years as the Cubs manager. But if you lose Game 7, how is your life different?
Oh, it'd have been absolutely.
Well, I guess the positive way to put it is, by winning Game 7. How did that change your life?
Right. I mean, the thing everybody wants to project the ulterior universe. I mean, it is what it is. The reality is we did win, and so I would never know how I would feel or how I would react otherwise. I'm very pleased with the outcome, quite frankly. And how's our life changed? I mean, my goodness, everywhere I go, everywhere we go, not just me, the players, the front office, our fans stand taller. Our fans, when you go to a gravesite with a drink to sit with a deceased relative because you're that pleased or happy or joyful about what just occurred, that doesn't happen every day. So we got the onus off our back. We were able to win for the first time in 108 years. And that was my first thought when that ball landed in Rizzo's glove, was 108. My life has dramatically changed, all for the good. And I'm very grateful for all that, to have been given that opportunity in the first place, to manage that team in that city, in that ballpark, with that fan base. Everybody should get that opportunity.
This thought just occurred to me, and I'm surprised I hadn't thought of it earlier, but in the other dugout is one of baseball's best managers, Terry Francona. And he had the exact experience in 2004 that you just described, because people took copies of the Boston Globe after the Red Sox finally broke through and won the World Series and placed it on the headstone of a deceased relative. Dad, here it is, it finally happened, or grandpa, grandma, whatever it might have been. Have you ever commiserated with Terry about that?
I haven't, honestly, I've not. It's been primarily with fans, the actual fans that have
Mhm.
done it. Walking, I live downtown in Chicago and I love the city. And I really, like I said, the fans, I mean, these folks would come up to you. They wouldn't want anything. It wasn't like, give me an autograph. How about a picture? It was like, great job. Thank you very much. We've been waiting a long time. And then they go into stories about deceased relatives and what
Yeah.
it meant to them and what it would have meant to those folks had they still been with us. So all that stuff is impactful. When you hear that often enough, it hits home. And what I've learned to do is just listen and then say thank you, because there's nothing else. There's no other way I could absolutely or actually process all of that. I was there for 5 years. So I get in there, we win in the second year. So my suffering as a Cub was very short lived. But when you hear the other folks and tell the stories, and of course be aware, it's pretty dramatic and it's pretty impactful. And like I said, to be part of the solution of all that, wow, I'm so grateful.
And of course, Theo was part of it from the front office for both, for the Red Sox and then for the Cubs.
How about that? I mean, that's pretty special to do it in those two cities, with the curse in Boston, and you got the GOAT in Chicago, and the fan bases, and groups that really expected the worst all the time. Nobody ever expected the best. And anytime one shoe would drop, they were expecting the other one to fall too. Throughout the playoffs, whether it was 15 or the times that the Cubs had made the playoffs prior to me getting there. And the same with the Red Sox, as I played there as a Ray. And it was when things would go a little bit south, or the fans would get tight. You could feel it in the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
Just a different experience, because these folks, it's religious, man. There's Catholicism, Judaism, and then there's Red Soxism, and then there's Cubism. I mean, these people really, they really feel it that way. You know what? As a kid growing up, I was the same way. I understood it. And I felt a strong connection to the folks of Chicago. I really recognized these people. I felt akin to them, and it was very comfortable for me.
Because this was such an epic game, every game that's worth talking about in every sport has what ifs, and they could have done this, and what about that? And the primary one, from Cub fans' perspective, and all's well that ends well, is Kyle Hendricks goes 4 2/3. He's pitching very, very well. Had allowed 1 run and only 3 or 4 hits, and had thrown only 63 pitches to that point. Carlos Santana gets a walk in the bottom of the 5th with 2 out on a close 3-2 pitch. And then you bring in John Lester. The Cubs are in front 5-1. You had good reasons. Remind us what those reasons were.
Well, I mean, probably the best way to answer this, and we had talked about this earlier, is the fact that I was worried about Lindor. And one of the thoughts that we had prior to the game, the day before, and actually the day of the game, was to not bring John into a dirty inning. So when we had already warmed them up once, he's warming up for the second time. And I'm concerned that if you keep warming him up, you're going to use his utility. It's going to go away. And also David Ross had spoken to me in the dugout after having warmed him up, tell me how great he was throwing. So my point is, when Santana gets on, I didn't consider that dirty. Had Kipnis gotten on, and then here came Lindor, I really would have wanted a left-hander on him in that spot, and as opposed to Kyle. So I was looking actually a hitter ahead of all this in regards to making this decision. So it's the 7th game. It's not July. It's not August. It's the 7th game. You just can't give something up there by not being prepared for it. So these are things we had talked about in advance. Felt really strongly about it. Like I said, it wasn't dirty for me. Johnny gives up a little chopper that it's a tough play for David. And then a wild pitch. Then you look at what he did after that. He was spectacular. Johnny could not have been better. So for me, it actually worked out really well. It permitted other guys to stay in the bullpen that we did use once it got into extra innings. And the overarching, we wanted to go from Kyle to John to Aroldis. And I was concerned, like I said, had I kept warming up John and not put him in the game, I thought his utility would have vanished, and then we would have lost that opportunity.
And another consideration, which you told me about earlier, we all know that Lester has his troubles holding men on, but with a 5-1 lead, you don't think Santana's a threat to run, and even if he does, it's not the end of the world. And you want the left-hander in there with Kipnis, and if he has to face Lindor, you want him with Lindor hitting right-handed rather than left.
Exactly. That's all right there. And yeah, I mean, with Contreras catching at that, David catching right there, David throws very well. So I just didn't see any kind of action on the bases right there. So, I mean, you got it. It's weird what you think about in that nanosecond, all the things that you're able to process in that moment. And I'm just trying to give you guys the full money. I was thinking about all these different things. And the overriding reason was Lindor. Lindor really worst at, and also subtext. If it was a different pitcher coming into the game other than John Lester, I probably would have stayed longer with Kyle Hendricks.
A reminder, folks, as you're watching this and as the conversation continues, you can click on the link below to donate, or you can go to respect90.org, and all of the proceeds from the merchandise and what you folks are kind enough to donate will go toward the 3 organizations in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, in Tampa, and in Long Beach, California, specifically pointing toward COVID-19 relief. So now back to the game. David Ross comes in. He's John Lester's catcher. He's playing the last game of his life, and he hits a home run in Game 7 of the World Series. Talk about poetic. There it is.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, he had such a wonderful year. I think he had 10 home runs that season, and a lot of them were with 2 strikes, as was the one in the World Series. You always feel good when David's in the game. Weirdly, we had 3 catchers there, which doesn't happen, that were all capable of catching Game 7 in the World Series: Contreras, David, and Miggy Montero. And it just happened to be David's moment. And then he comes up, gets that opportunity, and doesn't miss it. But when you're in the dugout, my point is, when you're looking out on the field, I always get that warm fuzzy when I like the defense. When you see defensive players out there that you feel really good about, that you feel have done their homework, that they're going to know what to do in the moment, you can count on them. There's a trust factor, and you cannot have more trust in a player than you would have in David Ross in that moment. So all these things come to bear, and of course he had a wonderful moment for himself personally and for us, and it's something that he will take with him for the rest of his life.
Okay, so the game plays on. You're up 6-3 in the 8th, and of course the plan is to go to Aroldis Chapman. Now, going back to Sunday, Chapman had the first 8-out save of his career, but that's a 1-run game. You got to leave him in there. That's the thing to do. And he locks it down. You win at Wrigley. You go to Cleveland. You have a big lead in Game 6, and Chapman comes in again. And then you pad the lead further while he's still technically in the game. You send him back out there. What was your thinking there, knowing that you're going to win this game and it's going to be a Game 7 and you're likely going to have to use him again?
Well, I mean, this the last part. I should not have sent him back out in the 9th. Everything happened kind of quickly. Riz hit a homer that put us up by more runs, and I honestly, I thought about this actually the day before. I did not want to run away from a crucial moment in Game 6 and have Aroldis be in the bullpen and have us lose the game. So when it got hot again, it was versus Lindor. Lindor hitting right-handed again. Aroldis had to cover first base, I believe, on a chopper. But I wanted him in that moment. And then we were still, it was I don't know, was it 7-2 at that time when he was in the game?
7-2, yeah.
And still, again, it's Cleveland in Cleveland, and it's a game we can't lose. And I'd already burned him there in a crucial moment because I thought he was the right guy. I should have gotten him out starting the 9th inning and not have him throw 4 pitches. That out of all the things I did in that series, that's the one thing I should have done differently. And I knew that. We didn't get any. I think it was Stropey that came in at that point. Should have gotten Stropey ready sooner. He probably would tell you that he could have come in a game, and that's probably true. But when you're playing Game 6 and can't lose it, trying to get to number 7, it's almost the same in my mind's eye, and all bets are off. So I wanted to roll this to get out of that inning. He did. He pitched the next inning. He did well, and then I should have just jettisoned him after Rizzo's homer.
As it happened in Game 6, he only threw, I think, 22 pitches.
Yeah.
He had thrown 40 in Game 5, 22, and then he winds up throwing 35 in Game 7. But we just watched the replay, and at one point he hit 101. So his average velocity was off like a mile per hour per pitch from Game 7 compared to earlier. But I don't know if that's counting. Maybe he was throwing more sliders. So maybe it isn't as significant as it was made to seem. I don't know.
Well, the thing, I mean, obviously it's played up because Davis hit a homer. Had Davis not hit a homer, it had been no issue whatsoever. And like David Ross talked about, they may have thrown him just one too many fastballs in that particular at bat. But Aroldis, what we did was we clinched early in that season in September. So we backed off dramatically the last part of September, treated it like spring training regarding how many times he pitched, just really trying to save him up for that run towards the World Series. Now, and then you think about it, who would you rather have in those games? I mean, at any number and under any circumstance, even a little bit of a tired Aroldis Chapman, you would prefer, I think, over a lot of other pitchers that we had at that moment. I mean, Stropey was coming off a leg injury. Hector had not been as sharp as he normally was. And then we did have Carl and Montgomery. And actually, Justin Grimm had been throwing well at that time, too. So when you get to that moment when you're down, we were down 3 games to 1. We were not in charge of anything. And like I said, to me, to lose any of those games without using your best relief pitcher would have been an absolute sin.
The at-bat by Davis in the bottom of the 8th, he kept fouling off pitches he couldn't do much with. And then I'm pretty sure it's a slider down and in. It had to have been a slider that he hit out of the park, right?
Actually, it was a fastball, David.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
But with slider action, it looked like that down and in action.
Yeah, I think it was a called fastball. We could talk to David. I'm pretty sure it was.
I would say you're right.
That if he went to the slider, that Davis would be able to do that to it. So we talked earlier today. Pretty sure he said it was a fastball.
Well, there you go. So he hits it out of the park.
Yeah.
And now the game is 6-6. And I'm told that Aroldis was in tears after that. True?
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty upset. And again, like you're saying, everybody, you could try to rationalize the home run any way you want. Everybody's tired in the 8th inning of the 7th game of a World Series. Their bullpen was tired. We got to Andrew Miller, and the fact that we got to him, there was not a whole lot made of that, but we got to him also. And if you look at the numbers during the World Series, Andrew's numbers and Chappie's numbers really match up identically almost. So it's just because the guy had a home run, all of a sudden it became magnified, and I totally understand that. But I promise you, I would have done it the same way all over again, except for the one moment where I would not have thrown him 4 pitches in the eighth inning, right? Was it for the 9th inning against?
For the 9th inning of game 6.
I would have just gone to the bullpen at that point sooner. To me, that was the biggest mistake I made.
Let's backtrack a little bit. Corey Kluber was fantastic in his first 2 starts in the World Series. He gets knocked around in game 7 as you guys build the early lead. And we heard Dexter Fowler say he homers to lead off the game. He says, look, I don't care how good somebody is. You look at him 3 times in 10 days or something like that, you're going to learn something. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard. I mean, these guys today, pitchers today, are not used to pitching on short rest all that often. I think, Jim Lonborg, what did he pitch on 2 days rest against the Cardinals in the 67 World Series? What Gene did with Bunning and was it
Bunning, Chris Short and Jim Bunning in 64.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, stuff like that doesn't occur anymore. And actually, for a while there, you would see, the starters pitching on less than 4 days rest as a 5-man rotation. So it's just not as prominent. And when a guy's thrust into that situation, I think you get by it maybe one time, but you try to do it the second time, it can take its toll. And you'd have to ask him specifically, but it's hard for a guy like Kluber to be that sharp for 3 consecutive games. Plus, we were riding a pretty good high, I think, after the previous game, coming back from 3-1, 3-2, and then getting it to 3-3 game 7. Our guys are feeling pretty sharp going into the dugout that night. So there was a strong motivation on our side. There's a lot of momentum on our side. So I think that played into it also.
And now as we talk our way through the latter stages of the game, a reminder once again, the link beneath if you want to donate or go to respect90.org and you can make a contribution, and all of the proceeds will go, all the contributions will go, including from the merchandise, which we'll find out about on the respect90.org website. All of those funds go toward the three charities that Respect 90 benefits in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, in Tampa, Florida, and in Long Beach, California. Anything specific you want to tell us about those charities and the foundation's work with them?
Yeah, I mean, well, the kind of like the linchpin is the Hazleton Integration Project. That's where we're in my hometown. We're trying to bring together the different cultures, the Hispanic and Anglo cultures in my hometown. When I was a kid growing up, it was all European white. And then since about 2005 to present, the city right now is over 50% Hispanic. And when I went home there with Jay in 2010, saw a tremendous disconnect and a lot of fear in the city. And I really thought the city was on the verge of literally passing away. So I thought we had to do something there. So we got together with my cousin Bob and Elaine Kerr. We created the Hazleton Integration Project. We have our own building now. We've won national awards. We're in concert now with Bloomsburg University there with our kids, some of the chosen better students going there and going through the educational program, becoming teachers. So we were actually building teachers for the Hazleton Area School District. So there's so many different ways to describe this place, but it's really thriving, and it's turned into a national model. In Florida, we started out down there with our Thanksmas project for homelessness, where we would cook food, which we've carried over into different parts of the country. But it began there at the different St. Vincent de Paul's and also Salvation Armies. And then eventually it led us to Metropolitan Ministries, which is a fabulous setup down there, great campus. The work they do there, you got to get in there and see it happening. And the people that actually work there full time, and then the volunteers, and how with such great dignity the folks are treated, with in mind the fact that they're going to train them to the point they get back out on their own. Awesome job. It's unbelievable. We go to Chicago for the last couple of years. We've done boxing, where we've done the Respect the Main event and have been able to raise almost $500,000 for the Chicago Youth Boxing and the Crushers Club in South Chicago. Tremendous events. My players, they absolutely love going to these things. I've always thought that youth boxing would be a great, inexpensive way to help create self-discipline, get kids off the street and give them something to look forward to and work toward in an inexpensive manner. And these people back there, Sally, I can't remember Sally's last name, do a tremendous job with this. And then out here in California, we recently, when I got here in January, we're at the Orange County Rescue Mission. We did our first Thanksmas down there. Wow. You talk about a facility and people that got their stuff together. Tremendous facility, absolutely necessary. And they do it as well as anybody I've seen in the country. And then we're lastly, I know Jay and the board from Respect 90 decided to make a contribution to the women's shelter here in Long Beach. And again, absolutely a necessary cause, and was very happy that she and the board looked into that and decided upon it. So the Respect 90 umbrella is encompassing and covering. We shave our heads for pediatric cancer. We do the Respect Bald. This year we did Balding All Angels. And I had Fortune Favors the Bald with the Rays. So again, I'm just trying to describe, I mean, we do a lot of different things under one umbrella, and we keep expanding it. And it's nights like tonight with you folks watching and possibly wanting to buy a t-shirt or one of the masks and contributing, that permits us to keep benefiting these different causes.
So again, the link is down below. You can click on that, or you can go to respect90.org. For those who don't know, what's the genesis of Respect 90, the name?
Yeah, we were trying to think of the right name for the foundation, right? So we're thinking about different things, and then I don't know exactly how it came up, but Respect 90 is the distance from home plate to first base. I know that came up. I can't remember who exactly thought it'd be a great name for the foundation, but it's the distance from home to first. I've always felt any baseball player that respects 90 feet will always permeate the rest of their game. And then one of our members, Steve Alexander, came up with a great thought that respect begins at home. So it's the double entendre. You got respect beginning at home, respecting 90 feet, respect90.org organization. It fit perfectly.
Okay, now back to the game. Rajai Davis has hit a huge home run. The game is tied 6-6, and so many things happen. As we said earlier, in any great game, Mark mentioned The Last Dance. You go back to that game 6 in 1998. Of course, everyone remembers Jordan's shot, but so many things happened during the course of the game. It's such a rich mosaic. I had actually forgotten that in the 9th inning, Hayward steals second. The throw goes into center field. He picks himself up, goes to third. He's at third with one out.
Yeah.
And then, because Michael Martinez has a better arm than Coco Crisp and better in right field than Geyer would have been, Terry sends Martinez into the game in right field. Geyer goes from right to left. Coco Crisp comes out of the game, which would be a big factor when the game ends. But meanwhile, you got a guy on third and a chance to bring the go-ahead run in the ninth inning home without a base hit.
Right. And, as Javi was up at that time, and Javi's one of the best bunters on the team at that time. I mean, that was early on in his career. We worked on a little bit more with him, actually, the safety squeeze on the right side. And quite frankly, giving you the whole story, I was semi-raised by Don Zimmer. When I worked with Zim with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays and the Rays, I used to have conversations with him all the time. And he's the guy that taught me the safety squeeze. One day I asked him when I first got there, I said, Zim, what's that play you used to do in New York with Jeter on occasion, runner on first and third, bunt, and we couldn't do anything about it. He started giggling, and then he described it to me. So we worked on it. We kind of perfected it, and then the kicker to the whole thing is Zim's personal philosophy is or was, if it comes to your mind, do it. That's how Zim managed. I mean, you talk about somebody that was different and was kind of just did whatever he thought in the moment. That was Zim. His voice came to my head in that moment. I mean, it was a perfect opportunity because Javi had a tendency to chase a little bit on full counts, 2 strikes. And I really thought that'd be hard for him to put the ball in play against that pitcher, but I thought it might be easier for him to get down a bunt, a safety squeeze. And on a safety squeeze, part of it is if it's a ball, you don't have to bunt at it. But I wasn't counting on that. I was counting on him putting the ball down, and one of our best, besides the guy that was running that play at third, was Jason. So it was all there. It was a thought. It's something we had worked upon. Unorthodox, I get it, but when it works, it's pretty cool. And if it doesn't, it looks pretty bad. But I also, there was a high percentage chance he may have struck out there too. And there's a chance he could hit a sacrifice fly. I get all that. But these are the kind of things you have to weigh in that nanosecond.
So he bunts foul with 2 strikes. He strikes out. The Indians get out of the inning. The game's still 6-6. They don't score in the bottom of the ninth. And you want to talk about anxiety. They're up. Home team, when you get to the ninth or extra innings in a game like that, the home team always has that last at bat, and your season and the World Series could end on any one swing.
Yeah, and I sent Chappie out there, even though he was distraught. I still knew that out of all the choices, he was the best one in that moment to get through that. And the difference there was Miggy was catching him. And because we had pinch run and David was out, so Miggy's in there catching him now. And the difference, Miggy had a different creativity about him as a catcher. Miggy wasn't the kind of guy that's going to just specifically always follow a game plan. Miggy had a little bit more feel involved in his methods, and he wanted more breaking ball out of Chappie. And he was absolutely the right thing to do in that moment. So in that inning, there was more slider involvement. And I totally believe had Miggy, and this is no knock on anybody else, it's just that Miggy was able to coax him through that moment just based on his ways, his methods, and him knowing Aroldis. So like I said before, Miggy has not gotten nearly enough credit for this victory and for what we did. The big grand slam he hit against the Dodgers against Blanton, 0-2 pitch, and he was actually pinch hitting for Chapman in that particular moment based on the fact I moved the batting order around thinking that Chappie wouldn't come up. I hit him like 8th up or 9th up for the next inning, and it comes up, and you got to pinch hit for him. And 0-2, I think it was, grand slam, Montero. So Miggy did a nice job of coaxing him through that inning and getting us to our next at bat.
So you get through the ninth, and in the top of the 10th, Schwarber reaches to start the inning. And here's a guy who played only 2 or 3 games during the regular season, comes back and has a tremendous World Series.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll tell you what happened with that too. We were playing the Dodgers in LA, and Theo comes in and talks to me in the manager's office and tells me that there's a chance that Schwarber's going to be ready for the World Series. He said that He's going to get medical clearance. We're going to send him down to Arizona. And I think it was Arizona, right? And he was just going to, what he did, he just goes down there. He just stands in and just watches 1,000 pitches to get his timing and rhythm and feel back. I mean, what he did to get ready in that short period of time was phenomenal. So it started right there. The fact that he was so determined. He was so determined to be well and get back and play and be part of this whole thing. And his at-bats were exemplary. All of his at-bats during the series were that good. Every one of them was that good. He looked like he was going to hit a line drive or a home run every at-bat. So him getting on base obviously started the whole thing up.
Obviously, there are 6 games before Game 7. Chris Bryant had 4 hits in Game 6. Rizzo had 3 hits in Game 6. They each had great numbers throughout the World Series. Zobrist, who we'll get to in a minute, winds up being the MVP of the World Series. Addison Russell has 6 RBIs, including a grand slam in Game 6. And Jake Arrieta wins Game 2 and Game 5 to get you back to Cleveland. So all those people are important contributors. But now Schwarber's at first base, and you send in Albert Almora Jr. to run for him. And he makes such an important play that's easy to overlook, but I know you didn't overlook it.
No, that's something we had worked on actually in camp. It was a big emphasis, tagging up on fly balls that are going to be caught into the deep outfield. Something you got to be aware of. You're not just going to do it. The White Sox for years, even AJ Pierzynski is one of the best, honestly, that I've seen at tagging up on a fly ball into the outfield with a little bit of depth. You got to see where the outfielder is. He's probably going to be moving away from the infield, but you know he's going to catch it. You got to know he's going to catch it. Otherwise, you're going to screw up the whole base running maneuver. So Albert read that thing perfectly and got back. And again, I don't know to what extent Brandon Hyde might have been in his ear a little bit there, but Albert made the perfect play, got back, stuff that we had talked about, and it was a huge play in that game.
And then up comes Zobrist to get the hit that no one will ever forget in Chicago.
Yeah, and I think, wasn't it a backdoor breaking ball? I'm pretty sure the pitcher was Allen, correct?
Cody Allen.
Yeah, and
I'm not 100% sure. I should have checked.
I think that's true, but a lot of guys wanted the backdoor breaking ball to Zoe. You did not want to throw Zoe a fastball middle in from a righty to him hitting left-handed. He killed anybody's fastball coming. I don't care how hard it was, Zoe can get to it. But the one that he would give up on sometimes is the ball away. He stayed on that. I don't even know. I haven't even asked him. He might have been looking for that or been, kind of in the back of his mind, because it wasn't often that he hit the ball like that, where that ball was. And if you watch the at-bat and how he stayed on the pitch, he stayed on it really, really well to slice it into the left field corner. Of course, I mean, what bigger moment is there? Well, there's bigger, but I mean, no, there isn't. There's no bigger moment in Cub history than that base hit by Zoe.
So he slashes the double to the opposite field. You've got the lead, and it seems like that's the World Series winning hit. But you need another run, and luckily you get it.
Miggy ground ball at the shortstop hole. Miggy continued to work good at bats. Telling you, man, there's somebody that's not afraid. It's him. I gained a greater appreciation for him the more I was around him. He and I become, pretty good friends as we worked our way through it. But that was a really large hit right there. That's that extra point that you need, obviously, that we did need as it turned out. But again, nobody talks about that enough. His job, his work with Aroldis, and then that big knock.
All right, so it's 8-6, but having gone through this whole game and knowing Cleveland's team, they're not done yet. Carl Edwards Jr. goes to the mound, and you take it from there. Yeah,
Carl, wow, I love Carl Edwards Jr. We all do. He gets 2 quick outs. I mean, it's looking pretty nice at that moment. And then he gives up a single to both Geyer and Rajay Davis.
Rajay Davis again.
Yeah, and the thing about Carl, you got to understand, and people don't, maybe you don't dissect it this much, but Carl had a natural cut to his fastball, and a lot of times he would actually be better versus lefties than righties. He was almost kind of like Mariano Rivera with that kind of a pitch that would blow up a lefty. But you saw when he punched out Napoli, you could see the movement on that cutter away. Dynamic stuff. So he was poised to get the last out of the series right there. But of course, it did not play. And again, I had warmed them both up early, him and Monty, but Monty was still available because here come Martinez. And you got to give Mike Borzello all the credit in the world right here. Borzi is one of the most unique coaches in Major League Baseball. What he does and how he does it. Before I got there, I was told about it. Yeah, right. But when I watched his work and saw his work, the way he'll take numbers analytics and he'll break it down into more of a baseball method. And he said, this guy Martinez, he cannot hit a left-handed curveball. Just throw him all left-handed curveballs. So he's in the game because Coco's out. And our guys knew that. I mean, our catchers knew that. Miggy's communicating with him before he goes out there. So all Martinez was going to see was a breaking ball, left-handed curveball. And he threw him a strike one, and the next pitch becomes the infamous slow roller to KB at third. So that's part of how this all works. That, again, behind-the-scenes stuff, Borzi bearing down right there, giving our boys some good intel. And it turned out to be the last out of the World Series.
So the defensive move that Terry Francona made, can't criticize it, made sense.
Right.
Fast runner on third base, 1 out, fly ball could bring home the series winning run. He wants the better arm in right field. But now, as fate would have it, Martinez comes up instead of Coco Chris to be the last out of the World Series. Now, it was only 2 pitches to him. Had the count gone deeper, were you expecting Davis to try to steal second?
I thought so. Monty, he has a fair move to first base, not a great move. Miggy had done a nice job of really receiving that year, not necessarily throwing out as many runners, but I thought for sure they're going to make that attempt at some point. And you're right, had the count gotten deeper, that may have occurred at some point. So the way it all ended up, him staying at first base, I was grateful for that. And like you're saying, the fact that we could not have had a better matchup, we thought, than Monty's curveball against that hitter.
All right, so you've won the World Series. There's all kinds of jubilation on the field. There were a whole lot of Cub fans in attendance. Yeah. So it wasn't like it was complete silence in the ballpark in Cleveland. Now, when it's all over with and you've answered all the questions from the press and the champagne has all been sprayed, what time did you go to sleep that night?
Well, we flew back, right? And I think they got us to 7:47, if I remember correctly. I remember driving down, was it Irvin Park? What, about 5 o'clock in the morning? I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning.
So dawn is about to break.
Oh yeah, and people were going out for breakfast. I mean, there was front office dudes that wanted to go out for breakfast, and I'm there with Jay, and God, I just had it. That's pretty emotionally and physically draining. So there was dudes went out for breakfast, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, which is the right thing to do. That is the right thing to do. I was unable to answer the bell. So I'd say we got back to the pad about 6 a.m.
So even though you had a terrific history in Tampa, you're about to embark on another chapter with the Angels. As a Cub, that number 70 on your back as a Chicago Cub is probably your enduring baseball identity.
I can't disagree. As we move further away from this moment, from 2016, the more glorious I think the event's going to be. It's not that it hasn't been glorified or however you want to describe it. It is. It's magnificent. It's one of the biggest moments in history of sports. Absolutely. But I think it's going to get bigger as we move further away. And a part of that and Anthony was on earlier, Rizzo. It's the cohesiveness of this group. As this group continues to come back over time and relive this moment, and fans and Cub fans get to see the guys that did this in the future, it's going to get bigger and bigger, I think. I think that's happened. That happens a lot. I mean, look, the 85 Bears, I think they were huge, but it keeps getting bigger and bigger all the time. You're witnessing the Last Dance. I mean, what they did though is absolutely phenomenal, but that keeps getting larger. So I think our victory, our World Series victory over time is going to gain even more momentum, I think. So to be part of that as this continues to grow, for lack of a better term. I believe that. I think that's going to happen. And like I said, the group that did it coming back together is going to be special for so many years to come.
All right, let's talk about 2020 now and what lies ahead. And again, folks, if you're just joining us, or another reminder, if you've been with us from the start, you can click on the link if you want to donate, or you can go to respect90.org. And all of the donations will go to COVID-19 related relief efforts in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, in Tampa, Florida, and in Long Beach, California. And since I mentioned Hazleton, how is your mom, Beanie, doing?
Beanie's vacationing. She's still down in Florida with my brother, Mark. She's down in St. Augustine. She's looking forward to getting back to my sister Carmine's house in Sugarloaf, Cunningham Valley. But Beanie's doing well. Beanie's in good health. She had a little bit of an issue a couple of months ago, but she's doing great. She's undergoing rehab. Her voice sounds stronger every day. We're really pleased with the progress Beanie's making right now.
And only until a couple of years ago, she was still waitressing, right, at the Third Base Cafe.
Yeah, she was at the base since 1970, 69. I mean, I was in high school, 69, and I used to fight my way through the crowd in the base. Beanie would be back behind the counter. In the morning, me and my buds, we would give her our order for lunch. So swim through there, do the swim move, grab the bag, and go down to our apartment, and everybody would show up down there and eat. So Beanie was there from 69 until what, about 2015, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She's 87 right now, 87.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I don't want to turn this necessarily into This Is Your Life, but your dad, Joe, passed away in 2002.
Yeah.
So you'd had a life in baseball already, but the great successes as a manager lay ahead, and he never got to see any of that.
He saw me.
How often?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. How often did his face and the idea of your dad flash through your mind, especially during that 2016 season?
He saw me as an interim manager a couple of times. He used to love coming down to Camden Yards. That was one of his favorite ballparks. My method has been this: during national anthems, I've always looked to the stands and I find an empty seat, and I put him in that seat mentally. Alongside him, I put my Uncle Rick. Uncle Rick used to live with him out here in Long Beach, and then I put my other uncles besides them, and of course the aunts and the grandmoms, everything. But the male the figures in my past. My dad had a bunch of brothers that were really influential with me also. So that's my ritual, is to place him in a seat. And then also, as you know, I carry his hat with me everywhere. My bag is upstairs with his hat in it right now. My dad was special. He was one of those dads that was there for you always. Was never too tired to play catch, shoot hoops, with the football, whatever. He was never too tired. He was a plumber, and he worked and he came home dirty. He's one of those dudes with the dirty fingernails that never came clean. So I learned work ethic from him. I think I learned patience from him, and he was a very special man.
So now you're back home, in a sense, with the Angels organization, where you spent so much time. It's a strange season, but eventually, if and when they resume this year, or hopefully by next year when they're back playing 162, you've got the best player in the game in Mike Trout. The Angels have added Anthony Rendon, one of the most dangerous bats in the game. Albert Pujols may not be what he was, but he's still a very dangerous hitter. Shohei Ohtani should be back 100%. If anything, a half season probably helps him to be closer to 100% if and when they resume. So this has, at least offensively, the core of a very good team.
Agreed. I mean, you're talking about three generational players there with Trout, Ohtani, and Albert. I mean, these guys, there's a strong argument. Albert, with the numbers that he's going to end up with, are among the best ever. Mike's going to do that. Michael's going to do that eventually. And then Ohtani, I'm getting to watch it on the field. Like, I'm watching him in batting practice on occasion. I saw him in camp, and it's just different. Ball out of the hand, ball off the bat. It's just different. It's that good. Anthony Rendon, to me, has been one of the most underrated players of all over the last several years in the National League. I mean, we knew this a couple of years ago when he was hitting 6th and 7th. Thank God. I mean, I I've been a big fan for a bit. Now I get to work with him. The guy you got to watch, there's a couple guys. Andrelton Simmons, one of the brightest people you can find on a baseball field. Really similar to Javi in a lot of ways, the way he sees things. And the other guy is David Fletcher, who's a lot like David Eckstein. They look a little bit alike physically, and they are alike in regards to the fact that they're just tunnel vision about baseball. They see everything. They're great teammates. And I think by the end of this year, everybody's going to know who David Fletcher is. And then there's Justin Upton looked really good in camp, outstanding. Jason Castro, I've already fallen in love with this guy. I could go on, but the pitching is going to be better than people know. The fact that Ohtani is going to be ready now, and Griffin Canning, this guy here with some good fortune and health, this guy is an outstanding major league pitcher. I love the acquisitions of Dylan Bundy and Tehran. Again, you're talking about professionals, absolute professionals. And then Heaney's going to be our opening day starter. We already announced that. This guy, I think he's one of the few that's thrown 200 innings on this staff. And then there's two young lefties, Suarez and Sandoval. I'm telling you, man, I like all that. And then the bullpen, we got Jacobs from the Brewers and Myers from the Cardinals, who I saw a lot in the NL Central. They're at the perfect age to become household names as relief pitchers. They're like 27 and 28, strong guys, good guys, like really aggressive sorts. And Hansel Robles, and I know I'm forgetting others, man. It's a good staff. I'm telling you, I'm really eager to work with this whole group.
So that really has been the question. You add Rendon to a team that already, especially with Ohtani coming back, already has a strong lineup. But the question has been for several years, will they ever get decent enough pitching to get them over the hump, get them back to the postseason? And what I'm hearing you say is there hasn't just been a bit of improvement. You think there's been substantial improvement.
I do. I mean, if we can get a healthy Canning and Ohtani out there, this turns into a really firm starting rotation. Then you get to choose a couple among the left or between the lefties, Sandoval and Suarez. I didn't even mention Ty Buttrey in the bullpen. That's the guy I was forgetting. I apologize, Ty. I'm telling you, man, these are good arms. The big thing is to believe in ourselves. We got to get that our identity going. When we show up, we believe we're going to win. And if the game's tight late, we know we're going to win somehow. These are the kind of things that we have to establish. Those are the things that are the separators. I think Billy Epler has done a wonderful job of putting this group together. I mean that absolutely sincerely. We were having a great camp. Everybody says the same thing. I know that. But it was really a special camp. And right now I'm working on very diligently to get it back virtually. We got different things working right now to get the boys back together in advance of actually getting back together. And I'm really eager to see how this all plays out.
Assuming good health for Ohtani, how do you envision using him?
Well, as he'll start, he'll pitch 1 day a week. And then what I've been told in the past, and this is what I have to learn, to not play him the day before, the day after he pitches. In other words, he could hit on those other days, DH on those other days within the work week. So I'd love to see eventually when he's well enough and he's gotten his arm strength back and physically he's able to deal with all this. I'd love to play a National League lineup, although that might become moot. There might not be such a thing next year. But, to have him hit in that lineup as he pitches, eliminate the DH and pop him in there, I think that's something that can happen down the road that I find very fascinating.
Let's assume, for the sake of this last question, that they're going to work everything out, that they'll be able to start at some point and get in roughly half a season and some sort of expanded postseason, that they'll be able to do it safely and practically, and they'll work out whatever they have to work out with the Players Association. You were telling me yesterday that you look forward to this. It isn't just something you feel like, I got to deal with it. You think it might actually be interesting as a one-off.
Oh, yeah. I think it's very interesting. I think there's a lot to be learned right now. And the big thing I got to get across to my guys is this is a year to be flexible and nimble. I mean, our normal methods, our normal process, it doesn't exist. It's not going to exist this year. We can't go into the season expecting anything normal. We have to expect the abnormal all the time, it's okay. It's going to challenge us in different ways. And again, I think the flexibility and the nimbleness that we're going to learn this year is going to benefit us down the road, I believe. So I'm going to be fascinated by every day, whatever the new rules or policies, whatever you want to call them, are going to be enacted. Normally, I'm against a lot of this stuff. I'm definitely going to be on board right now. I'm on board with everything right now. I think we just need to get out there and play. We need to be amenable. We need to be cooperative. We need to be optimistic. We need to be there to put baseball back on the field and really promote it as what it is, the best professional game in all of sports. And we really need to start re-attracting young fans. And I think how we do that, to me, is more about contacting them and educating them as much as anything. So whatever we can do, whatever I can do in order to help that, I'm on board entirely with that. So this whole time, we need to be open-minded, embrace change, embrace new and different things, and keep an eye on now while we're keeping the other eye a little bit on the future and how this is going to work out in 2021.
You know, I'm like you. Some of the ideas that have been floated, I think, pretty good. Others, I say, no way, I don't want that. But this year, this half season, if they're able to get it going, short of running the bases backwards, I say try everything. Throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, see what makes sense, and evaluate it when we get back to normal.
That's me, because I am a traditionalist. And I've said some things publicly, and I know some people don't like when I say it, but I'm just speaking from the heart when I say those things. But we're all saying things differently right now, right down to the fact that I've never seen the sky so blue. I think the last time I saw it this blue was 1966. So things are different. I accept that, understand that. And we are in a situation where we need total cooperation to figure this out and make it work and move it forward. You cannot be a dissenter right now. How could you possibly go through this moment over the last couple of months and be a dissenter? I don't understand that. So I'm going to do everything I possibly can to project a positive message, remain optimistic, and again, with the game itself, be an ambassador to get this out, to make sure kids understand how great this game is.
And here's something that none of us really know how it's going to feel or how it will play out until we are there and it happens. Playing with nobody in the stands. Some players feed off emotion and atmosphere more than others, but to one extent or another, it affects everybody.
Here's my take on that. I agree with you. I think in the beginning, it's going to be fine. We're going to be so happy to be playing. It's not going to be a problem, an issue, even the little scuttlebutt, you're not going to hear it. But I think maybe after a week or 10 days, there might be a lull among the group because we are adrenaline junkies. So I think there's going to be like this happy to be back. Absolutely. I'm saying a low, maybe not a recognizable low unless you're in the dugout or with the group. But then I also believe we're going to come out the other side. And it's just going to be about competition. This is the new normal for now. We have to make the best of it. And furthermore, it's going to be getting closer to playoff time, which may change all kinds of things. It's a half season. I've managed rookie ball, 3 years? It goes like that. That half season goes like that. Before you know it, you're going to be sitting at a Thanksgiving table. So when you get it going, full bore. Gosh, it's tough playing without any fans. And then all of a sudden it's going to be like, I'm fine. And we're in pretty good shape right now. The playoffs are in the windshield and looking ahead. And that's going to be an absolute blast. So I think there's going to be a little bit of ebb and flow in the beginning, but it's going to turn out really well.
So, Joe, it's been great looking back on 2016 and looking ahead to the 2020 season. Before we wrap it up here, anything you want to say one more time about Respect 90 and the reason we're here?
Well, thanks. The Respect 90 Foundation, we're out there. Like I said, our umbrella has gotten larger. We have more groups we're trying to take care of. And we can't do it without you and your donations. It's impossible. Normally, under circumstances, I've done golf tournaments. We've run events in Chicago. We have a big dinner in Pennsylvania, in Hazleton at the end of the year. We do different things in order to raise funds. We had to become more creative, and thanks to Mark Stein and of course, Bob helping today, this is our attempt to ask you through a very groovy t-shirt and a mask to contribute to the foundation so that we can continue the good work. HIP project, like I said, it's a national model. Look it up, HazletonIntegrationProject.com or respect90.org. You'll find the same information. check it out. It's really impressive, and it's really important in our world today, in our country today, the way things are breaking down population-wise and ethnic group-wise. We are a microcosm of exactly what's happening every place else, and we're trying to set the right example for other people to follow. And beyond that, the pediatric cancer, the stuff, when you meet with these kids and their families, it's heartbreaking. The boxers back in Chicago love them. And we want to set up a boxing match with kids from Southern California, now with kids from Pennsylvania. Last year we brought Chicago to PA. We want to keep that rolling also. And thanks for this, feeding the homeless, whether it's out here at the Orange County Rescue Mission or Metropolitan Ministries or any place in between. We've done it all over Chicago, Catholic Charities, the Salvation Armies back there. We try to touch as many as we possibly can. I think that's it. So whatever you can do to contribute, we really appreciate it. I promise you, the dough is going to get turned around in favor of all these different projects. And we really appreciate it. And again, finally, let's just stick together. It is about unity right now. It's about being flexible. And it's about really working off the same sheet of music. And eventually we're going to come out on a better side of this. It's going to get exponentially better. And when we come out the other side, we're going to look back at this, and we're all learning tremendous lessons, even in patience right now. And I'm looking forward to the conclusion.
So again, folks, the link down below, or respect90.org. Thanks to all of you for being with us as we relived Game 7 in 2016 and looked ahead to 2020. Joe, thanks, and I'll see you in person soon, I hope.
Thanks, Bob. Really appreciate it, man. Mark, great job, brother. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Joe. And just really want to thank Bob for taking the time to do this and support us. And as I said at the beginning, there's nobody better than Bob Costas, and we're just thrilled that you joined us.
Hey, Mark, if you can help a good cause by talking baseball, that's not much of an effort. I'll talk baseball at the drop of a hat.
How good is that? Well, this was like a fantasy camp for me to be able to, share a screen with two of the best in the business that there ever was. So thanks again, Bob. And Joe, thank you for all that you do, obviously. And this video is going to be up for the next couple of weeks on YouTube and on cameo.com. So we just hope everybody keeps donating and buy those t-shirts and buy those masks, and let's keep it going. And thank you to everyone that joined us tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Thanks, Bob.
See you, Joe. Thanks.
Buddy, thank you, guys. Thanks,
All right, talk
Mark.
soon. See ya.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.